Free Staters are seated up in legislatures or something?
That is such a hard thing to determine. How many dyed-in-the-wool Free Staters are in the State House? How many people who are 100%? I think, yeah, if you looked at Jean Deitch's number, it's about 60, and I don't know exactly how she does those metrics, but it is hard to determine because there are many people up there who would probably describe themselves as conservative libertarians. I hear that a lot from people. The majority of them vote similarly. I think that's what we need to hold strong in. I've always hesitated to use the Free State as a boogeyman because I think it doesn't give the necessary accountability to the Republican Party, which I think itself has some policy issues as well. It's not just the Free State. The Republicans do believe in a different version of government than the Democrats do. And so they, when passing the Education Freedom Accounts, had some people walk, that's true. They had some people vote against it, that's also true. The overwhelming majority of them voted for it, and the ones that did vote against it, some of them were primaried in the last election. They lost, like Peter said, similar to the Trump style of politics. They are able to just, with the AFP money, wipe people right out. As soon as you step out of the orthodoxy of the party, you're done. And you'll get the full force of the Koch brothers money and other Peter Thiel, Alex Karp style hyper-technological, elite, libertarian-esque money that will come down against you. And so there's a whole lot of people up there, good people in the Republican caucus, whom Peter and I work on. I mean, the $1 billion investment in housing would never have happened if Peter didn't have the relationships that he does on the other side of the aisle. But they're scared because they have to worry about primary challenges from this money that is palpable. So, it's a tough answer, but about 60. About 60.
I would say even more than 60, knowing some of my colleagues as I do. And Jason Osborne, the majority leader of the House, he is the biggest flag waver of the Free State Project. And if you're on a committee and you don't go the way Jason Osborne or his leadership says, you're done. So they have, even though there might be 60 or 100, they're in charge because the other Republicans, for the most part, go along to get along. Because if they object, they're going to lose that parking space, or they're going to be moved to the inside seating, or they'll lose their committee assignment. And that's difficult for all of us. I think I mentioned it a month ago, that so many good Democrats are leaving because they've had it. And you're always battling, and 2 years ago we only had a few between Republicans and Democrats, so we had a lot of close votes and things kind of worked out. But being down more than 40 right now, it's a really hard hill to climb. And if people don't get out and vote, again, I think most people in the state are like-minded centralists. But if they don't get out and vote, if they're discouraged, they don't come down and vote, then we'll have another 2 years. And several of the people that we're losing, Kate Murray, for instance, over in Newcastle, very competent on finance with me. They're concerned that if the House doesn't at least go Democrat in the next election, the state will be lost. And I'm taking that right from another rep said the same thing. That, so we need to try very hard. And if you know people in other towns around here, like Hillsborough or Antrim is another, these towns that can waver either way, even Dublin and Jaffrey. Dick Ames is leaving. Dick has had a long-term relationship with the House. He was on Ways and Means and on an education committee this last term. I saw him yesterday. He told me he's 82 in his time, but he's concerned. Who's going to take his place? And Jaffrey's another town that's right on the edge. It could go either way. So if you know people in Jaffrey that need your help, it's important.
Carter has.
I guess I'm a little surprised to hear your responses about the Free State Project, because there's a lot of information that gets sort of left on the floor there with them. for anybody that doesn't know, the Free State Project itself is a 501c3. They're not legally allowed, federally speaking, to run any candidates. For anybody that actually wants to understand who a Free Stater is, which is sort of a misnomer because it's just somebody that decides that they wanted to move here from out of state. People that were in the state that agree with the movement will call themselves pre-staters. But I didn't hear you guys bring up the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance at all. And the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance is the biggest measure for people that will vote in line with what many would consider to be Free State Project oriented beliefs or positions. And so I guess there's also this sort of misunderstanding that there's direct ties between coca line groups like AFP with these places. They align when they align, but there's not any paper trail that shows any evidence of their sort of relationships aside from seeing who sits on what board for each separate organization. And I guess my concern here is that when I hear sort of alarm bells being rung about the Free State Project and about sort of the libertarian movement, there's not any kind of cohesive description of what's happening that comes down from people who sit in the State House. And if you look at the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance numbers as far as people that receive an A grade or higher, you're actually looking at much more like 100 to 120 members of the State House. And that's a quarter. That's over a quarter. So
That's over a what?
That's over a quarter of the State House. I mean, you guys have 400 representatives. So
I thought you said core, so I was-
No. But so I guess if it's truly a concern, if sort of the anarcho-capitalist, which is a much better description of what these libertarian advocates are sort of advocating for, why is there not a more concerted effort among elected officials to better articulate this dynamic to voters so that they're capable of understanding what they're actually up against?
I mean, it's a good question. I think if Peter and I were strategists for the Democratic Party, that we would be certainly advocating for a little bit more of a cohesive message in terms of how to deal with the Free State and, like you said, anarcho-capitalist people that are funding both AFP, the Liberty Alliance, the 501c3. When in an audience, I use the Free State. I mean, like I had caveated before, I don't particularly like to, because I think, as you were alluding to, it's a bit of a boogeyman that doesn't exactly describe.
I would caution away from calling it a boogeyman and say more so that it flattens the issue.
I mean, I would agree with that. I'll agree with that. I mean, boogeyman describes it too, but yes, it flattens the issue, which is a lot more complex. That I agree with you. I mean, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance is the political arm for is the Liberty Alliance?
They are a 501c4. They are actually legally allowed to do lobbying and run candidates, and
Is the Liberty Alliance the one that does the gold standard?
Yes.
Right. So to tell that story, every session day we have people that stand outside of the session hall where Kent Street Coalition 501c3 that sends out lists to people to sign up for legislation will hold up their signs, other people will hold up theirs, interested groups and bills will hold up theirs. But consistently for a long time, there have been at least two people that stand outside the session hall to hand out a Liberty Alliance sheet on all the bills that are before the House on the calendar. And that sheet goes through what their position is on the bills that the Liberty Alliance board has voted on prior to session, their position on. And so you have members of the Republican caucus that get both the Republican caucus sheet, and then they take their yellow, gold Liberty Alliance sheet. And you'll see them in the session. You can tell sometimes who's who based on which one they're looking at. Are they looking at the white caucus sheet, or are they looking at the golden Liberty Alliance sheet? And Carter, I think, is in a lot of ways spot on. These are the 501c4 that is active in the State House that is engaged with the Republican members in making sure that they vote the way that the Liberty Alliance wants them to vote. And that sheet of paper, their score, it's kind of subjective to say this, but I would say that the Liberty Alliance score is probably the most powerful in the minds of the majority of the Republican members. And 100 to 120, getting that A to A minus range also includes those members, of which there are many in the Republican caucus, who get B's and C's. So they're not always voting with them, but they're voting with them enough to be able to get a overpassing grade. So that is a big concern, and I take your criticism of how we put that well, and I will absolutely incorporate that in how I speak about it moving forward.
I just want to go back to the 501c3 thing. Can you clarify that for me, that the Free Staters are a 501c3 and they're also elected officials?
Well, they have an organization called the Free State Organization that they have filed with the feds as a 501c3 organization. But the Free Staters is a catch-all term. I think that's why I agree with Carter's criticism. I think what he said was eloquent and well put. We've used it as a catch-all term that kind of flattens what is a little bit more of a complex
Because it's the Liberty
situation.
Alliance,
Right,
it's all
exactly.
kind of rolled into it.
Yeah.
So, but if you're an official Free Stater, technically, did I hear this right, that you cannot be an elected official?
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
There's literally no such thing as an official Free Stater.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how they get away with it.
Right.
Okay, I get it.
Two things. They run as Dems or as Republicans. They hide. They're chameleons.
Yeah.
And in order to go back to the Free Staters, they didn't just make a choice coming here. They were paid to come to New Hampshire. The money was behind them to get them here to overtake.
Well, a lot of them actually just came here because they're wealthy. The gentleman that served as my vice chair when I chaired Division 1 last term is really the head of the Republican Alliance in the legislature, Dan McGuire, very wealthy. His wife's also in the legislature, and they're very nice people, but they just have a different philosophy, no or less government. And they feel that, and they support all the things that concern us, like the freedom accounts and issues that New Hampshire. I was brought up in New Hampshire, and I've seen things change for the worse, I think, in the last couple of years. It's not the state that I went to school in or raised my kids in, but these people are not necessarily being paid to come here. They're coming on their own because they have money.
But they were sitting when they started.
Way back, but I think the general term, the Liberty Alliance is really, I see as the poster child for this, free state type of thing, but it's people who use all sorts of different things, but they have a different, I guess you could say, a different philosophy. They just really, really, really believe in less government. They pushed hard to get rid of car inspections. That was one of their main goals, to get rid of car inspections. So, as I think all of you know, we don't require any insurance to operate an automobile in the state. We're the only state, believe it or not, the only state in the country that doesn't require some form of insurance. And these people support that. And again, a lot of them have the wherewithal, so they can afford insurance. And it's impactful in all of us that we have to carry uninsured motorist insurance to protect ourselves from all the people that don't have insurance. So this state has a lot of things going on if you start putting them together. And this isn't just happened overnight, it's been gradually coming.